Sometimes I like to let that thing run just because I like the beat. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to season 2 of DPF on Tap, episode 1. Tonight we've got Chris in the DPF garage until his Wi-Fi goes out, and then he's going to run inside. We've got John and Dugan, and this is Mike coming to you from the DPF basement bar. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to go through a few discussions, a little bit about small ball and switch hitting with Chris and John. We are going to talk about some of the NL East transactions with Dugan. We're going to look at who's left in the free agent market, all-time Phillies rotation as far as pitchers. Do the Phillies already have a closer? We'll talk about that. We'll do O Dumbass of the Week, and we will talk about a stadium called Rickwood Stadium in Birmingham, Alabama. So just a couple of quick housekeeping pieces here. The DPF brass has been hard at work designing a new website. So go check that out at drunkphilsfans.com. It's on the ticker on the bottom. We're having new offerings for branded merchandise so far. Chris, if you could, well, we lost Chris. Chris has if he's back, he could show us the tumbler that we have, branded DPF. And as we get new samples of merchandise such as t-shirts, sweatshirts, tank tops, possibly fanny packs, maybe even slides and those kind of things, dog bowls. We will put them on that website. You guys will be able to support DPF that way. Also available custom-made bracelets from DPF Daughter. Please DM us to order. Right now in our house, I've got a Fuck the Mets, a Stott, and a Marsh on order. So anything you guys want the DPF Daughter to put on a bracelet, players' names, FTM, that kind of thing, DM us and we'll get that situated for you. And then the last one, before we kick off our content, this is a huge one. On Saturday, May 18th, we'll have our first DPF group night at Citizens Bank Park. Really soon, the Phillies are going to give us a direct link for y'all to purchase tickets. So look out on our social media accounts and jump on tickets when they come out. We will definitely have a BYOB tailgate no matter what. So stay tuned for details on where that'll occur. But we are also in the planning stages of possibly an all-you-can-eat, all-you-can-drink option for a fee. So like I said, as it gets closer to May 18th, again, Saturday, May 18th, it'll be our first group night out at Citizens Bank Park. Check out on this podcast for details as well as on all of our social media. So with all that being said, Chris is trying to join, but John, if you want to take it away and start the hitting discussion, we can do that.
Yeah, sure. We were coming up with topics for this week, and I was thinking maybe small ball and how it became a lost art for a good long while, especially when the shift was a part of not the rules, but a part of everyday play. Now that the shift is, well, that's not completely gone, but it's restricted. I think we should start seeing a little bit more, hitting for average instead of launch angles, and all this Kevin Long stuff. A lot of people think Kevin. I mean, I'm just going to talk specifically about the Phillies real fast, but everybody thinks Kevin Long's this guru. I think he's just a guru for the guys that have played for him, like Schwarber, Turner. Who else played for him? Did Harper play for him before? I forget.
Yes.
But like Schwarber.
Yeah.
Okay. Schwarber, Turner, Harper, like those guys. If that works for them. But you got like Stott is never going to be like that power hitter, like slamming. He's got to and he was hitting great last year. So I want to see him even break out and be better. So like guys like that, Bohm, Rojas, like you need contact hitters. You need guys that hit for average, hit the gaps. Also, I mean, we said it all last season. Bunting. Got to bring some bunting back. And I'm not just talking about the Phillies. I'm talking about around the league. Like small ball needs to come back. You need to advance your runners. Specifically with the ghost runner in extra innings. If you're the first one up and you got the ghost runner, I'm throwing down a bunt right away. First pitch, boom. I don't care. Try it out. You might get on base. If not, you advance that runner over to third. Now you got a shot at winning the game right away. But I mean, bunting, more stolen. You need more stolen bases. Just advance the runners. There's ways to advance the runner and score points, score runs. I'm sorry, not points. Score runs. Then just yakking everybody going up and just like swinging away. You know what I mean? What do you think, Chris?
Sorry about the technical difficulties here. I got to get the garage wired for Ethernet or something because I was dropping off. So I'm in the DPF layer. I wanted to talk a little bit similar about hitting, but I wanted to talk a little bit about switch hitting here. So, and not the type of switch hitting, John, you're used to.
That was on a tee for you, man. You set that one up on a tee.
Yeah, I was like, all right, here we go. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a history lesson. It's short. It's not going to be boring. So around the advent of baseball in 1871, Bob Ferguson was known as the first switch hitter. He didn't switch hit situationally like we think now. It wasn't like he was batting lefty against right-handers. It was kind of like how he felt against a certain pitcher. So that did not come into vogue until like the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Pinch hitting didn't take off early on, even though this Bob Ferguson was good, because he was apparently an asshole. And people thought if they were a switch hitter, like they would think, oh, he likes Bob Ferguson, and they didn't want to be associated with him. So I thought that was funny. Around 1951, maybe the most prolific switch hitter in the history of the game came about. There's been no one better since. So Mickey Mantle hit from the left and right side, both with power. At the time, switch hitting was around 4% of the league in 1951. There were people that came after Mantle that you could say were as good as him or had, a career like he did. And I'm thinking Eddie Murray, Chipper Jones, guys that really hit well from both the left and the right side. So 25% of the league in 1989 was switch hitters, believe this or not, 25%. And it was led by the Cardinals. So if you remember that Cardinals team, they had 5 switch hitters in their everyday lineup. Terry Pendleton, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee, Coleman, and Tom Herr. 5 freaking switch hitters. It really went down from there. Right now, I can't think of two switch hitters that I would say are prolific. Jose Ramirez and probably Adley Rutschman. So the question is, is it going to go back up? And this segues into John's point. Why did switch hitting go away? Well, because hitting a fucking baseball is the toughest thing to do in the world. And to be able to do it good from two sides, it's almost impossible. That's like 1 in a billion winning the lottery twice in your life. So a lot of these guys did it young and then don't do it. Cedric Mullins is one. He was a switch hitter. And then eventually he became a left-handed hitter because he's just better with it. He can focus in on it. And for that reason, I don't think it's going to come back into vogue. I don't think that someone like a Johan Rojas would be someone who, 30 years ago, he would have hit switch hit because he sucks from both sides, but he's fast. And it would allow him to, platoon or not have to platoon, right?
Right.
So I think that's what a lot of the reason why that came about. Right now, I think that last year there was 12.5% switch hitters, which is it's a lot still. I don't think of it in that way because we don't really see it that much. There's only a few people that do it. But people who qualified, it was 12.5%. I mean, I think that switch hitting is not only a lost art, I think it's just going to go away. It's too tough to do things great from both sides.
Yeah, so what I was thinking was, and John kind of touched on Stott, and you kind of touched on Rojas. Like, I had just had a couple of questions for you guys. So, do you think the organization even wants them to, become like that pure contact hitter? And do you think it would add value, not just to the Phillies, but for them in their career as players, if they did concentrate not maybe on switch hitting, but on contact hitting and bunting and that kind of thing, being like maybe the leadoff and the number 9 hitter in our lineup?
I mean, Mike, it's a great question, but like Schwarber is exhibit A, like hit 190, get on base 400, at 40% of the time and hit bombs. Like they're not rewarding someone who's hitting 340. They don't give a shit anymore. They want you to hit, 220 with, 20 home runs and 60 to 80 RBIs. So I don't see, unless organizationally they're kind of making a change, it doesn't benefit a player because they're out for contracts and they're not giving anyone a contract on it, a contact hitter. They're just not.
I mean, everything seemed to change with the growth of analytics, and it kind of made the strikeout became just a regular out, where before it was an out nobody wanted to make. Now the strikeout is they just go, oh, that's just another out. So these guys are all swinging from their ass, to try and hit home runs, and you've kind of lost that art of being a contact hitter, and I think that might also lead to the downfall of the switch hitters, because why are you going to try to learn to hit for power from both sides? Let me stay to my dominant side and swing from my ass from that side, and that's that's really an analytical thing and a philosophy change in baseball. We're all upper 40s, and we remember the game being played with switch hitters and small ball and hit and run and taking the extra base and the button to move runners up. Almost automatically, everybody in the ballpark knew it was a bunt situation and it was going to happen. And today's game is just not played that way. And until teams go back that way, I think you're going to see a further degradation of quality hitters. I mean, if you look like certain statistics like WAR, I mean, Arise in Florida, he might be the best hitter in baseball, but statistically, when you put him up against the way all these metrics go, Schwarber and him are the same guy, and it doesn't make sense. Like I would pick Arise any day of the week, if I needed a base hit, over Schwarber. It's just the philosophy of baseball has really changed approach of the hitters, and analytics has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. Speaking of switch hitters, Chris, this is not to get off the topic. Have any of you guys seen this guy? I don't know if he's coming over. I don't know if he's just staying over in Japan. Seen a video of this guy over in Japan. After each pitch, he switches sides of the plate. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, Dodgers already they deferred.
His contract's deferred till 2057.
Yeah.
But yeah, after every pitch, it was nuts. And I'm like, would that even work here with the pitch count? It's like, all right, then he's got to switch. And it's like, wait, like after every pitch, he would just like, hold on, time, and then he'd go to the other side. But we only get one timeout. But I just thought that was fascinating.
That brings up an interesting point too with these Japanese players coming over here now, and the pitchers particularly. How are they going to handle the pitch clock? I mean, typically they're fast workers anyway. The Japanese pitchers they don't mess around. They seem to catch and throw, so it may not be an issue. But when you get runners on base, we
won't know. We won't know, Dugan, because we're not signing any of them.
Yeah, we'll have to stay up late and watch the West Coast games, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but that'd be interesting to watch.
We'll get to some comments in a minute, but the comments is heating up over this batting discussion. So I appreciate you guys bringing that up.
Awesome.
Dugan, you want to transition into NL East?
Yeah, I figured we're like a month or so out from spring training start, and so I wanted to take a look at, like, we all know what the Phillies have done this offseason, which is pretty much nothing. They've kind of re-signed Nola, signed some of their guys that were arbitration eligible, haven't really gone out and made a big splash or gone out and got, a new guy, someone that's going to make an impact on the team other than what we've already had. So I wanted to take a quick look around the division and just kind of see how active the rest of the division has been, with some of their key loss and key moves that they've made. So we'll start at the bottom here with the Nationals, and they've been pretty quiet too. Typical. I mean, the Nationals were garbage last year. I don't expect anything from them. They had two key losses: Matt Adams, a first baseman; Willie Peralta, a relief pitcher. They retained a few guys, whether it was through re-signing them or arbitration. Pitcher Tanner Rainey, the center fielder Victor Robles, and the right fielder Lane Thomas, who I really like. Lane Thomas was a guy I want the Phillies to target last year at the deadline. Their one signing, they signed third baseman Nick Senzel. So they really haven't lit the free agency world on fire. They'll probably be, again, the bottom of the division. Not a team the Phillies really are going to need to worry about, although they do struggle against them almost every season. Then we'll move on to the Mets. Some of the key losses for the Mets: Carlos Carrasco, Adam Ottavino, big boy Danny Vogelbach, Luis Guillermo, the second baseman, Hungry Hunter, Tommy Hunter, retired, relief pitcher. They kept a couple guys from last year: the catcher Navarez, Brooks Raley, a pitcher, DJ Stewart, a right fielder. They did make some signings: Joey Wendell, Luis Severino, Austin Adams, Mike Tonkin, Jorge Lopez, Harrison Bader, and Sean Manaea. They added. So most of that was pitching that they added. They made one trade where they acquired like three guys in one trade: Adrian Hauser, a relief pitcher; Tyrone Taylor, an outfielder; and Johan Ramirez, a relief pitcher. I don't see anything really impactful that the Mets have done that's going to move their needle too much based on what they lost last year. Harrison Bader was an interesting guy. He, a couple years ago, he was a highly touted young guy coming up with the Yankees. Had one really good season, kind of been, mediocre ever since. I guess the Mets are hoping he catches fire and is back to the player that he was supposed to be. The Marlins, again, another team that really hasn't done much either. The East has been kind of quiet in the free agency. Some of their key losses: they lost Jorge Soler, Joey Wendell, our boy David Robinson, Matt Barnes, Johnny Cueto, Jorge Alfaro, and Jacob Stallings. They retained a couple guys: Josh Bell, John Birdie, AJ Puke, and JT Charwa. And they made a trade for catcher Christian Betancourt. So really not much. They kept a few of their guys, added Betancourt, but lost, Soler and Joey Wendell and Stallings, who were three big guys for them last year. Then we come to the Braves. And the Braves are obviously, they're loading up to beat the Phillies, and that's clearly what they're doing. A lot of their moves are relief pitchers, a lot of lefties that they've acquired either through trade or signing guys. They kind of picked up some guys, a lot of division guys. They guys seem to stay in this division. They just kind of move from team to team. A couple of their losses: Jesse Chavez, pitcher Kevin Pillar, Brad Hand, Colin McHugh, Eddie Rosario, and they traded the once promising starter Soroka was part of a deal. They traded him away. They ended up retaining a few guys, whether it was arbitration guys or just re-signing: Joe Jimenez, Charlie Morton, Jackson Stevenson, Penn Murphy, Oscar Noah, AJ Minter, and Max Fried. They went out and signed Ronaldo Lopez and Angel Perdomo, a couple of relief pitchers, and Guillermo from the Mets, second baseman. And then they made some trades. They acquired, I can't ever pronounce this guy's name, from the Mariners, left fielder Jared Kalenic, and Marco Gonzalez and Evan White from the Mariners. Left fielder, starting pitcher, and a first baseman. And the big addition was Chris Sale to their starting rotation. So they're gearing up. A lot of these guys, They also acquired Aaron Bummer. He's a left-hand relief pitcher. So they're obviously, getting bounced by the Phillies 2 times in the last 2 years in the playoffs after having, 100-win seasons. They're looking to kind of counteract the Phillies' big left-handed bats in our lineup with some of these guys. Their rotation's probably going to be, Strider, Fried, Sale, Morton, and what were the last
Elder.
guys? Elder, yeah. I mean, on paper, it looks like a great rotation, but Fried gets hurt every season. Charlie Morton gets hurt every season, and Chris Sale's been hurt his whole career.
Yep.
So,
And he stinks.
and
He stinks.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah, he had a good
stinks.
year probably since 2017 or 2018. So
Yeah.
I think on paper they look good, but the paper champions, we'll see what they do. But right now we all know the Phillies haven't done much. They're John will get into who's out there left that the Phillies could possibly acquire. But I think the division, it's a 2-team race in this division. It's obviously it's the Braves and the Phillies, and the Braves, during the regular season last year really outclassed the Phillies. And I'd love to see that become a more of an even battle, and the Phillies actually have an opportunity to win this division and not get in as a wild card. But that's gonna take the Phillies coming out of the gate playing fast. We've fallen behind every year to the Braves. They come out playing fast, and we're 8 games below 500 come the middle of May. So, but the Braves are definitely gearing up, to beat the Phillies. That's what these moves are all lined up to do, and the Phillies need to do something to answer that.
Agreed.
I mean,
Yeah.
you would think that the Braves are going to stand pat, right? Like, why would you change anything? Like,
Right.
what the hell would you change? I mean, and they've done things. I mean, I guess they haven't been successful, so that's why you do things. And the Phillies are like, hey, we made it this far with what we have.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, they're not with the same lineup. It's more of the back end, the rotations. The back of the rotation, the back of the bullpen. They're trying to make changes. And during the regular season last year, they were both great. And you always know, like the Braves, like Charlie Morton gets hurt, they find some kid down at AAA. He comes up and he throws 7. He goes 7-0 with like a 3 ERA.
yeah.
And then Morton comes back. They got guys that they just pluck and come in and they do the job for them. The Braves have a great organization, but
Yeah, I think I was always jealous of that. Like we would bring up Joe Roa and they'd bring up, Spencer Strider.
yeah,
Right.
It's one of those things. It's just so odd. Like, and I don't know. Maybe they're not afraid to bring up the 21-year-old, and we are. We're like, hey, well, wait till he's 24. Then he isn't good anymore.
Yeah.
Never was good.
That was the shocking thing last year. How quickly they brought Kirkering along. That's odd for the Phillies to do something like that. They haven't really done it with a starting pitcher yet. I guess they were going to try with Painter before he got hurt.
Right.
So maybe it is a shift in the Phillies thinking and say, hey, let's get these guys are ready. Let's get them going. What good is it? Go win all the games you want. Who cares if they're winning games down with the Iron Pigs? Come up here and help us to win games. So maybe it's a shift.
What always impressed me about the Braves is if you think about it, like I hate the Braves. So I'm just saying I respect their game as far as bringing up players. If you think of it, if you go back over the years, how many people have they brought in for free agency? Like they've homegrown a lot of their guys.
Yeah.
Like a lot of their guys that became stars came through our system. Now there was free agency signings, of course, here and there, but I mean, for the most part, a lot of the guys came up through their ranks. Like you said, Duke, you don't see the Phillies doing that too often.
Well, you think about the best era of Phillies baseball, that 07 through 11. That was
all them guys.
That was homegrown.
Yes. Yep.
Guys that played together their whole career, and it does make a difference instead of just kind of picking parts and trying to make it all fit.
Right.
Yeah. The Braves do it right. The Braves do it right. And they're good. They're competitive every year. Can't beat us in the fucking playoffs though.
Right.
Well, like to
I
your
was
point,
surprised.
though,
Okay, Mike.
they identified that and they did something about it. Who
Yeah.
knows if it'll work or not? But we haven't figured that out, or at least it's not. Dombrowski might have it in his head, but it's not evident to any of us like what our strategy is to get better. Our strategy is, it looks like, trot the same team out and hope we do better.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Surprised the Braves gave up Michael Harris, and Cash for Chris Sale. Like, that was wild to me. Like, if you're giving up one of your prospects, like, you give them up for someone else, like a more pitcher of stature. You don't give up one of your best prospects for Chris Sale. But I mean, I think we were talking about. I think you might have mentioned it, Mike. Somebody mentioned it, that it's more like for the end game. Like, if he could stay healthy, it's more for the playoffs. Like, keep him healthy, maybe bring him in for like long relief or something in the playoffs.
That's a big if.
Yeah, that is a mighty big if.
Yep.
So let's dive in here. Shell, we're gonna Shell Hammer. We're gonna call him Shell. Hello from Skook. I love that.
The Skook.
The Skook. He also says, agree. Hit to get on base. It's basic fundamentals. We like dingers, but when we have runners in scoring position, let's get them in, like, a hit with runner in scoring position. How many times did we say, last year, we were 3 for 15 with runners in scoring position, or 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of agreement here on small ball, Patty, Nancy. And to William's point, bunts don't secure big contracts. It's too selfish, the game anymore. So, yeah, that's a fact.
Picks dig the long ball, and so do owners.
Yeah. It's what puts asses in seats, right?
Yeah.
Bud, Happy New Year. Fuck the Mets. That's our first fuck the Mets of the new year, I believe.
It's always nice to see. It's a little late in the comments, but we'll take it.
I think Shell is saying Vince Coleman. I don't know if you missed his first name.
Maybe I said Gary Coleman.
Maybe. I don't know.
I could have said Gary Coleman.
What you talking about, Willis?
What? Excuse me, Bud. Don't forget, a bunt would have changed the season at the end of the season. I agree. I think we talked about it when it happened. Where's Thomas Nido? Can somebody remind me who Thomas Nido is?
Got us.
Shell.
Tom Nieto? I think he's talking about
Nieto.
Maybe
Yeah,
like an old catcher. I don't know. Maybe that's what he's talking about.
Maybe.
Phil Negro.
Maybe. Los Garcia, hit bombs and throw gas. Yeah, so that's the other flip side of maybe we'll do a segment on actually pitching, right? So there was a guy we've talked about on here. I think, Dugan, you said, who is your favorite non-Philly? And I threw out Maddox, right? What did he throw? 85 miles an hour, but he could paint, and he never walked anybody. And if you don't throw 95 to 100 miles an hour these days, you don't usually get trotted out there.
He wouldn't even get scouted today, Matt.
Nope. It's crazy to me. Bud says, how many right-handed guys bat left? Would you say 12.5% of the league is switch hitters?
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
So I would say that's about how many.
I wonder if he's talking about like Bryce Harper, like a guy that throws right-handed but hits left.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I don't know.
We'll have to dive into that. I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
That's more common than the other way, throw left and hit right, for sure.
Yep. I think Ricky Henderson's the only one I could think of.
Yeah, Ricky Henderson did it, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess everybody's saying you sound good now, Chris. 2 or 3 of those. Marlins signed no one.
Yeah, no signing for the Marlins.
Yeah. Well, they got Tandick.
That's right, they did.
Yeah, that's a big acquisition.
Los Garcia, do we have a LA fan on here?
Uh-oh.
Oh, look at
That's
that.
cool. Welcome here, man.
Yeah.
Just as, like
You-
maybe they're going to buy DPF on tap and rebrand
Well,
it
we
as
talk-
Dodger Town, Dodger Dog.
Do we tell him the bad news? All his comments will be deferred to the next episode.
Yeah.
I like this one. Besides Wheeler, the Phils have no rotation. Sorry, but Nola blows, and I don't trust Suarez going more than 3 innings.
Ooh.
So it's
I
funny
trust
because
Suarez 3 innings, just not the first, second, and third.
it's
I
funny
like that.
because I saw something like the Phillies rotation is ranked like second in baseball. I don't know.
It was
Ranked-
first.
Yeah.
It was first till the Braves got Sale. Now they put the Braves first.
Which shows they need a drug test. Like,
Yeah,
like,
if Sale
for real.
added to the Braves, like ascends you to number 1, like
Yeah.
you're on drugs. Like,
Sale and two 42 guys are almost 40.
Dude,
Yeah.
Shellhammer's on fire today. Only thing Atlanta can't buy is heart.
That's right, baby.
that's
I
true.
agree with that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got here. How come you guys still support deadbeat data? What's your pops talking about?
I don't know.
The kid from Boston is an illegitimate kid in Boston.
No.
Did you ever catch up with him or
Nah.
what?
Yeah. No, the paternity test came back. It was false, Pop.
I don't know.
But no, I don't know. Maybe we mentioned the player or something. I don't know.
I think it's you, John.
I think
Tell
it's-
us.
Is he,
tell us
is he
who-
talking?
Tell us who you mean, Pop.
While we're waiting, Fred says what's up, and that since 1920, 62 players batted right and threw left. We got our crack research team in the
that's-
background.
There you go.
That's awesome. Freddie Short coming up big there.
And then Bud's my new favorite because I've been screaming about this for a long time. Why don't we sign Bud? And then your pops wants Snell, John.
I mean, if he's what's left, I mean, I'll get to that in a little
I
bit.
don't
But
understand.
yeah, if he's,
I don't understand the hate for Snell. The guy's a 2-time.
I don't hate him. I just feel like
Bring
it's
me
like
Snell.
it-
I don't give a shit. He's a 2-time.
at this point in his career, that's the best year he's had, and it's like I don't know, like he hasn't been consistent. He won a Cy Young, and then it was like, and then it was like he won a Cy Young. It's like, are we gonna go down or up? Like I'm just worried about throwing money at him, and
at
then
least he does it
How many
in
Cy Youngs are on the
years.
Philly staff right now. How many Cy Youngs are on the Philly staff right now?
that's true. That's true.
Zero.
I mean, come on.
And at least he goes up and down over a year period. Not
I'm not down on him.
day.
I'm not down on picking him up. There's just like maybe like another guy I would like before him. But I mean, if he's there, I mean, if we get him, we get him. I'll root for him.
Bauer's going to come a lot cheaper than those guys. I mean,
Yes, he will.
and it could be one of those, low risk, high reward signings if things don't work out.
Uh-oh. The FTC took Dugan off for talking about Bauer. Last one here, and we'll move on. Blondes and Brunettes. It's a brewery, pretty new brewery. I've been there once. It's pretty decent. Sure, Chris, you've been there, but they say what's up, guys. So pretty cool.
Yeah, we have to get over there as a group. But I'm gonna pull like a Richie and Harry. Like, you know what? If you have some beers you want us to drink and show on the show, send them our way. Blondes and Brunettes. We're not against free beer and promoting people for beer. We're all about that. So we're into that.
We are into that. Oh, Dugan's back. The FTC let you back on?
I don't know what happened there, man. I don't know. I couldn't hear you guys. I was here. I had to put in my buds. I couldn't hear you anymore.
Maybe you got the garage Wi-Fi.
Maybe.
You guys need to upgrade to premium package or something.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, guys, we'll roll into Oh Dumbass. So for those of you who are new in the new year, I'll give a quick recap on Oh Dumbass. So as you all if you're fans of the Phillies, you remember Odubel Herrera, and Odubel Herrera used to make a lot of dumb decisions, both in the outfield, at the plate, and on the base paths. And so I started calling him "Oh Dumbass," and with a couple of friends. And when we started this podcast, I was telling these guys this story, and they said, well, why don't you do a segment called the "Oh Dumbass of the Week"? So that's how we came up with this, and it's been fun researching these things over the last, however long we've been doing this, 9 months or so. So this week's "Oh Dumbass" comes to you from Copenhagen, Denmark, technically from Russia, but I'll get to that part. So picture this, ladies and gentlemen. There's a flight from Copenhagen, Denmark to LAX, Los Angeles, California. As you might know, that's an international flight, and there's first of all, if you've done any travel since 9/11, it's really hard to get on a plane without a ticket or a passport for international, that kind of thing. Well, flight crew noticed during their flight from Copenhagen to LAX that a gentleman was in a seat where no one was supposed to be. It was supposed to be an unoccupied seat. During the flight, this gentleman was wandering around from seat to seat, trying to engage, multiple people in conversation. And these people are like, who is this guy? They're trying to just, take their flight and maybe, sleep or whatever they were doing. And he also acquired a couple of different meals at different meal times that weren't his. So the plane lands, and as you might imagine, the U.S. authorities were there to ask this gentleman a few questions. Well, turns out he was from Russia, and he told the authorities first that he had no ticket and he had no passport. Then, after further questioning, he said he had left his passport on the plane, which when the authorities went to look, that was false as well. There was no passport on the plane. Then he told them he hadn't slept in 3 days, and therefore he didn't know what was going on, and that he might have had a ticket to the U.S., but he couldn't remember. He wasn't sure. Then finally, he claimed not to remember how he even got through security in Copenhagen, or what he was doing there in the first place. So this gentleman was charged with being a stowaway on an international flight into the United States, which is a felony. And his trial was actually last week in federal court in Los Angeles. He was found guilty of stowing away. They're now trying to decide where to deport him to. Usually in these circumstances, they would deport the person to the original flight where it took off from in Copenhagen. But since he has no passport and he claims he's from Russia, they're trying to figure out whether they're going to send him to Copenhagen or Russia. And that, my friends, is scary, because he was able to get through security and onto an international flight with no passport, no ID, no ticket, no anything. And this is this week's "Oh Dumbass of the Week." So
That's wild.
Unbelievable.
Who's the "Oh Dumbass"? Him or TSA?
Yeah, well, Copenhagen TSA, whatever that is.
Jesus.
You know what? Throw them all in the fucking gulag. Let them battle it out.
Cool, man. John, you're up.
All right. So we've been talking in off season about, who we'd like to get signed, who we and we're slowly watching people come off the list, and Dave is standing pat. I have the list is getting smaller. So, Imanaga just signed with the Cubs. That was my guy. I wanted to maybe hopefully grab him on like a 3-year deal with a club option fourth, or 4-year with a club option fifth, and the Cubs got him at a pretty reasonable friggin' price. We could have thrown a little bit more money at him. What did he get? Like 4 years, $53 million, I think. I was thinking we could have gave him 60 or something. And I think he's getting 2 club option years, 20 and 25 and 26. But that's not really that bad of a deal. We could have did that. And I hear people saying there's concerns about him. I don't know. I'm not concerned. The guy just pitched his ass off in the World Baseball Classic. I seen enough. The dude was a stud, and I looked at his stats are pretty decent. But yeah, he went to the Cubs, unfortunately. So I still think we need a starter. I agree, Papa John. Uh, we can't stand Pat, and who's left? But we were just talking about, Snell's left, Montgomery. I was just talking to you guys. What was that last night or the other night about? We might have to outbid Texas for Montgomery because especially with DeGrom and Scherzer out for a good while until like maybe in the beginning of summer, or midsummer. One of them is. They're both out for a while, so they're going to need to hold up that rotation for a while, and we might have to outbid them. And I mean, they just won the championship with them, so it's not like they got to twist his arm. So I mean, hopefully maybe we could entice them, but if not, like I was telling Dugan, I'm not down on Snell. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind having him. I just like there was other guys I was looking at before him, but and like Mike's guy, Trevor Bauer, man. Like, why not? The dude was exonerated. He'll be cheap, low risk, high reward, but you don't give him a big contract. Like if you were to bring him in, like he's 32, so give him like 3 years maybe. And it's kind of like a prove it deal. Wouldn't you guys agree? Like it's pretty much you're coming back. Like even though you're exonerated and all, it's kind of like all right, well let's see what you could do.
I don't know if I'd go 3 year on him. I think it'd be a 1 year.
It's like a 1 year prove it.
Yeah, I mean he's been out in the league for almost 2 years now.
True.
I would want to see what he had before I committed to any kind of longer than a year deal.
Would you do like 1 year and a club option year, maybe?
Yeah, anytime you have a club option, I enjoy that because then they decide if they want to keep them or not. Yeah. So I would do that if that would be like the breaking point. If that was the difference between what we were offering them and someone else was, then yeah, because you can always decline the option, pay them a small payout, and be done.
Right. And there's another. This is going to rattle people's nerves, and it even rattles my nerves even mentioning it, but. Here's a scenario, hypothetically. What if Dave just says, you know what? We got this kid, Mick Abel, down there. He's pitching good. Let's see what he's got in camp and throw him in the rotation. I don't know how I feel about it, but I mean, I could see him doing that shit. I could see the Phillies as the organization doing that shit. I mean, just like, you know what? We're not going to spend. We do need a starter, but let's see how the kid was pitching good at the end of the year. We brought him up to Lehigh Valley. Let's see how he does in camp. I don't know if that's an option or not, but I mean, I hope it's not. Like, I would like a name, the starter, either Snell, Montgomery, Bauer. That's like my top three. I don't know who else is out there. I mean, Urias would have been if he wasn't a piece of shit, but and I posted on the page the other day. Well, Stevenson's out. The Phillies were in like looking at Jordan Hicks and Stevenson, but Stevenson just, I think, got arbitration today or something. So I think that's out. But as relievers, but I mean, yeah, we need pitching. Outfielders, I got a few names. One we would have to trade for. I think we mentioned it last episode. I wouldn't mind sniffing around. I heard the Rays are kind of shopping them slightly. Randy Arozarena. Wouldn't mind seeing about him. You'd have to trade for him. I don't know what they would want for him, but free agent wise, Michael A. Tower, solid. You could start him in center field. He had a nice season with the bat last year. Maybe he could help with a little pop. Duvall off the bench. You could, use him to spell somebody here and there. I saw somebody post, what about Whit Merrifield? I don't know how you guys would feel about that. But, I mean, these are just like guys I'm thinking about, we could plug in. But my major concern is a starter. And I'm just going to finish it off with one thing before I pass it off. Last year, I was rooting for this kid all year, as you know. I was his biggest hype man, Kirkering, from like the lowest ranks all the way up. And if the Phillies are if the Phillies are willing to do that with a guy and see that a guy's playing his balls off, then my candidate this year to come up at some point, not right away. I doubt it's going to be right away, but maybe later in the year for a playoff run. I think Andrew Baker's ready. I think Andrew Baker will be up by the end of the year. If not before September, definitely September. The dude pitched his balls off last year. He had a great Arizona Fall League for the what was their name? Scottsdale Scorpions. That's right. He pitched and they made the playoffs in that league, and he pitched phenomenal. I got to catch a couple games online. I think that would help the bullpen. It's you don't have to go out and sign somebody. It's an extra. You can just call him up. But what you guys' thoughts on who's left and who would you want to bring in?
So my opinion of this is I wonder if we ask Dave, and he whispered in our ear, we're not doing anything until the break, and we're going to trade, and that's what we're going to do. We're not going to sign a free agent. We just want a rental. We want to win, and we're just going to get someone for the rest of the year. I'm kind of fine with that. That dude from Boston, from Milwaukee, who's not coming back into the second half. I'd be totally down with that. Send one of the non-hitting great outfielders and someone else for that dude. I don't see the need for a starting pitching. I see a need to pick up this fucking dude. I don't want to say his name. He pitched a lot of innings. We got to figure that out first. Nothing's changed about the starters. It's the same dudes, so they're gonna pitch the same. I think we have to worry about that back end person picking up those extra innings. And I'll talk about it later, but I don't know if we have it.
I'm wondering if the Phillies didn't paint themselves into a corner as far as starters go with that contract that they gave Walker, because they can't move it. They have zero confidence in the guy because he didn't even throw a pitch in the playoffs last year. They obviously like Sanchez more than they like Walker because he did pitch in the playoffs. So it's do they want a $20 million guy unhappy being kicked to the bullpen, or are you going to kick Sanchez to the bullpen to bring in another starter? So I think they might be a little tied, with what. With you only have 5 starters, it's 6 when they brought in Lorenzen last year, but I don't think they do that for a full season. I don't trust Walker. I think his numbers his win total was totally deceiving last year. He did not pitch like a 15-game winner, especially in the second half. So I would love to upgrade. I just don't know if they can, because they what do you do with him? He's never pitched out of the bullpen. The money, you're not going to move it unless you eat some, which I don't care. The Phillies have more money than God, so they could do whatever they want money-wise. But who? Is he desirable? Does anybody want Walker? So I think they're kind of hamstrung. I think they got to focus, like Chris said, on the back end right now. I'd be good with trading for a starter mid-season. Obviously I'd love to start with a stud, get a guy in here and have a really solid, 5-man rotation. But if it has to wait to the break, to the trade deadline to solidify it, I'm good with that, as long as we've made the moves in the bullpen to solidify the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Cool. You know how I feel, so I'm bowing out of this one. I won't bow.
Yeah, what's Walker? Walker's got 2 more years left, right?
I think it was a 4-year deal. I think he's got 3 years.
Oh, I thought it was 3.
I think it was a 4-year, $80 million.
Oh, shit.
Fuck it, pay him not to play. Pay that dude not to play.
They
I was
paid
gonna say-
Snapnuts not to play. So
I was going to say, you just toss him wherever you want him this year and deal with it. If he's if next year's his last year, you figure out how to get rid of him, whatever. But he's got 3 more years.
I think it's 3 years. I think it was a 4-year, $80 million deal. Yeah,
I think it's with the Mets. We trade with them or get guys that have been there. I think we've gotten lucky with a few: Dykstra, McDowell, and Zach Wheeler. The rest are they fucking
Greg Jeffries
stinks.
Yeah,
he stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. Billy Wagner.
Yeah, Billy Wagner.
He's getting in the Hall of Fame. He's getting in the damn Hall of Fame. And it's crazy because he's never led the league
That's
in
crazy.
saves. Yet he has a ton of them, but he's never led the league in it. But
plus, he's an asshole.
Did you guys see the video of Papelbon and Eric Kratz, I think, was interviewing him?
Yep.
Yeah, great
it's
interview.
Fucking awesome. Like, it's
I didn't see that.
Fucking great interview. Like, I don't like Papelbon, but I like him a lot more than I did before I saw it.
I like Kratz a lot more. Kratz got Papelbon to admit he's soft.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta. Yeah. Where's that out on YouTube? I gotta watch that.
I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah, send me it. Yeah, I gotta watch that. I didn't catch that.
It's good. It's good stuff.
All right, Chris, you want to roll into Phillies rotation?
Yeah, I got it. So, so I wanted to look back at, Phillies have had a lot of great starting pitchers over the years, and I want to try and narrow it down to the 5 best if I could. And I actually couldn't get it to 5. I got it to 7. So I have the 7 top Phillies starters in no particular order, and I'm just going to throw out some stats on these guys. And I'm sure there'll be a couple guys left off the list that people will be like, "How could you leave this guy off?" And my number 1 criteria was how many games they won. Were you a winning pitcher? So that's kind of what I base it off of. So I'm going to start from the guy
Walker.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna start from the guy who is the oldest, that played the first season the longest ago. So this guy's first season with the Phillies was in 1911. He played 8 seasons with the Phillies. He accumulated 190 wins, 91 losses with a 2.18 ERA. Had over 1,400 Ks. And here's where you start seeing the way the game was played differently. He had 280 starts with the Phillies, 61 shutouts, and 219 complete games. So 78% of his starts were complete games, and 22% were shutouts. That's Grover Alexander from 1911 with the Phillies. He played 8 seasons with the Phillies. The next guy started, his first season was 1947, played 13 seasons with the Phillies. Record not great as far as wins, lost, 115 wins, 110 losses, 3.66 ERA. But another guy, 263 starts, 41% complete games, 6.8 shutout percentage. Kurt Simmons, 115 and 110 in his 13 seasons with the Phillies. Next was 1948 was his first season, 14 seasons with the Phillies. He went 234 and 199 with a 3.46 ERA, 472 starts, 272 which were complete games, so about 58% complete game rate, and a 7.4% shutout rate. Robin Roberts, 234 and 199. 1959. 132 and 127 with a 3.38, 301 starts, 88 complete games, 29% complete game rate, 8% shutouts with 24 shutouts in his career with the Phillies. Chris Short, he went 132 and 127. And then 1972, we get the lefty Steve Carlton, 241 and 161, a 600 winning percentage for the Phillies, 3.09 ERA. Over 3,000 strikeouts. He had 499 starts with the Phillies, 185 complete games, 31% of his games, and a 7.8% shutout rate with the Phillies. And then the 2 are more modern era, the last 2 guys. 1992, his first season. He played 9 seasons with the Phillies. Kurt Schilling was 101 and 78 with the Phillies with a 3.35. But you can start seeing how these complete games keep degrading. He only had a 27% of his games were complete games. He had 61 in his career with the Phillies out of 226 starts. And my 7th name on this list is Cole Hamels. He was 114 and 90 with the Phillies with a 3.3 ERA. He made 294 starts. His complete game percentage is only about 4.8%. And he had 7 shutouts, which was 2.4% of his starts. And his first season was in 2006. So those are my 7 guys. I'm sure there's a couple guys you guys would think should be on the list, and I'd be interested to hear it.
I want to twist your arm. Which two are you pulling, Chris? Like, if you had to do a 5-man rotation, which two dudes of those are you pulling?
Probably. Oh God.
The 5 that are dead.
Yeah. There you go.
Sorry,
they were from the dead arm era.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think Chris Short would probably be pulled out for me, and probably Hamels.
Okay.
Those would probably be the two that I would drop off.
Yeah, Grover Cleveland, like the amount of complete games him and Roberts did is amazing. And it's further amazing that, Grover Cleveland was drunk 98% of the games. I checked that on baseballstats.com. I mean, that's pretty amazing. He definitely needs a plaque of some sort, I feel, in the garage, because like he is like, I don't know if there's anyone that's a bigger load than him.
Yeah, 219 complete games out of 280 starts with the Phillies. And then, like you said, nuts. Roberts had 272 out of 472. So more than half of his starts, were complete games with the Phillies. It's just crazy. Now you're lucky, like you said, 2-time Cy Young winner Snell can't get out of 6 innings.
No.
These guys were pitching 4-man rotations and pitching complete games. 2 times, 3 times a week sometimes. So the game has just changed. It's not just the hitting side that's changed. It's the game as a whole is so different.
Yep.
Yeah,
like Mike said,
even Schilling, 92. Starting in 92, 27% of his games were complete games. You just don't see it anymore. You just don't see it.
Yeah, like Mike
Chris,
said,
your list was awesome. I could only add like Jim Bunning. Like, was he here?
He was.
Like,
that was on mine.
He's 15th in wins on the Phillies with 89. So he just kind of missed my list. But I'll give you his rundown with the Phillies. He was 6 years here with the Phillies. He had a 2.93 ERA. It's pretty impressive. Let's see if I can get to the complete game column here. So he had 65 complete games out of 208 starts.
Almost half.
So, yeah. So he was probably a third of them or so were complete games. But yeah, he had good numbers too. He had real good numbers.
Yeah.
But using wins is kind of my barometer. He was only 15th.
Right.
So,
you were much more scientific. I was much more.
I mean, you could throw Halladay in there, but in reality, if you look at his numbers, he had 2 really good years and 2 mediocre to bad years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his 2 years were unbelievable. His first 2 years here were off the charts good. And then I think he was in the 4s, and then I think his last year he was in the 6s, his ERA. Yeah, he was shot at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. In more ways than one.
Yeah.
No Jason Grimsley? No Jason Grimsley on your list?
He just missed it.
Don Carmen.
Don Carmen, Shane Rawley.
Yeah. The greatest era.
Yeah, great list.
It's a good list.
I wrote 13 names down and you had some of them, but like I just used to love watching DJ and Mulholland pitch and Lee and Oswald. I had those guys on there just from enjoyment rather than
I think a lot of great pitchers, but their numbers with the Phillies, either they weren't here long enough to compile enough or kind of a couple of those guys were, Oswalt was at the end, of his career.
Yep.
But no, they were great. I mean, like I said, this list could be way longer. For in 1 year snippets, you could grab anybody and go, wow, that was, he was fun to watch that year. Danny Jackson was great, 93. He was unbelievable. Yeah. So
Cliff Lee, I watched
man.
right behind home plate in Florida at Clearwater. Just the sound that the ball made was different. Like I just remember, I will never forget that. Just sounded like, something you were cooking on the stove, like sizzled in and then pop. Like it was just different.
He Yeah, he leads the Phillies, Cliff Lee, strikeouts to walk ratio, career wise. He's like 6.5 strikeouts to walks while
Nice.
he's with the Phillies. Yeah, he's number one. I did see that. Zach Wheeler,
Wow.
number two in that category. Halladay, Nola, Hamels, and Schilling. So it's all modern era, more strikeouts, more
Right.
power pitching, in those years. Eighth on the list, Zach Efling, and Joe Blanton ninth. I mean, just tells you the way the game's changed. I mean, the only guy that kind of Jim Bunning is seventh. He's at 3.6, Ks per walk in his career with the Phillies, seventh on that list. But most of them are kind of modern era guys,
Yeah, and
cool.
Cliff Lee could hit too, and steal bases. Remember him stealing bases in that snazzy, majestic satin jacket? Dude had some legs, man.
Yeah, good fielder too.
I love Cliff Lee.
Yeah, good baseball player.
It's a shame how he went out though too.
Yeah, and he doesn't come back. You don't see him for the alumni stuff, and kind of a weird personality.
Faded out.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey man, I love the list. I love the discussion. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Rolling over to other Chris. Do the Phils already have a closer?
Yeah, so this is something like, I know there's like, oh, we have to replace that dude and we have to replace the time that he spent in the innings. And I want to take everyone back to like early in the year. Do you remember when like we had a guy who was closing games and it was like, this dude's never going to give up a run? Because he's on the Phillies team right now and he's the closer. Like there's no doubt about it. He has it in him. He's the person. Don't use him in the fifth. Don't use him in the seventh. Use him in the ninth. 100% of the time until he proves he can't. Jose Alvarado is the closer for this team, period, end of story. That's it. There's no need to go outside. Jose Alvarado has the stuff, has the demeanor, has the fire to be a closer. He should be anointed closer, and I don't know why we're even thinking about someone else. Like, we have this dude. I want to go down the list of, like, who's in the bullpen right now, and would I consider them closing, or would I be comfortable? Maybe like not as a full-time closer, but closing, keeping it alphabetical. Alvarado, yes. Bellotti, absolutely not. Connor Brogdon, no, but I think he might be the guy who's going to fill in that fucking piece of shit's innings. Like, we forgot about Connor Brogdon, but like this dude, like if he can get his head right, I think that he's like a viable candidate because he's Ryan Madsen to, Alvarado's Lidge. It is. Dylan Covey, like, I don't know, like this dude, like, I feel like, I don't know why. I feel like, I feel like Dylan Covey wears drugstore cologne. And I don't know why, and I do not know why, but I just feel like he does. So, Dylan, if you don't, I'm sorry, but I feel like you may.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second. If you go back last year to Dylan Covey's numbers and you take out that one start that he had on the Sunday Night Baseball game in Atlanta where he got his tits ripped for like 8 runs in an inning in the third or whatever the hell it was, his numbers were not bad. I mean, he's serviceable in that bullpen. Not I wouldn't put him in a 7th, 8th, 9th inning role, but kind of that long guy. If the starter goes a short 5 innings or something, I think Covey can bridge that 6th, 7th, 5th, 6th inning maybe for you to get to the back end of the bullpen. He's not great, but I think he's not as bad as his numbers look because I think that one game really inflated everything on him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Chris. Like, I think there's places for Dylan Cobies, and he did well for us.
Yeah,
there's places for vanilla ice cream too. Like, that's the way I think of Covey.
His dollar store cologne, and he comes in the 5th inning.
Yeah. I feel like he has jupe, or like something from like the early 90s. Like, I don't know why he's a Jupe guy or maybe Fahrenheit, but like I'm feeling like he might be doing that. Sir Anthony, dude has closer stuff. He has, a 10-cent head if he gets his shit together. Like, this dude has closer stuff. Would I allow him to close? Yeah, of course. Like, he was the closer in waiting. Hoffman, absolutely. I think this dude might be the other dude because, like, he was no one. Jeff Hoffman, best pitcher on the team last year, period. End of story in the bullpen. Like, just awesome.
Just got paid yesterday, too.
Yeah.
Good.
So, he's back and he deserves it. Kirkring, I don't know. Like, would I trust him? Probably not yet, but I would do it. I wouldn't trust it long term, but I would do it. So what I'm saying is, like, I already named 5 guys that I would say, like, we should close. We don't need a closer. We need one of these guys that's in the fucking minors to step up and get their head out of their ass. And I'm talking about Connor Brogdon. I'm talking about Bilotti. That's like, those are the type of guys we already have. Let's not go out and pay for someone else. We can keep these people in house. And then maybe at the deadline, you go out and get that Matt Stairs to put you over the top, or that pitcher that will put you over the top. Like, I just feel like we need to rely on some of these guys that we have in the minors a little bit more. And even if it's like in segue a little bit more, like McKinley Moore, I don't know. This dude's like fucking 6'10" and throws hard. Like, maybe McKinley Moore's the dude that picks up that CG's innings. I don't know. I don't want to get a bullpen guy that's high priced and we're stuck with. I want to stick with who we have. The bullpen was the greatest asset last year of the team. Why would we want to remotely upgrade it when we may have it inside? So that's kind of my 2 cents, and open to feedback here. We can move on.
So yeah, I'll just throw in one quick thing, John.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Then make Alvarado the closer, right?
Yeah,
we've talked about this before.
Just
you're the closer.
Yeah.
Don't. I read it somewhere online last week or the week before. Thompson's going to do closer by committee. It does not work. Everybody that wins championships has this guy they call the closer. If it's Alvarado, fine. If it's Hoffman, fine. If it's Sir Anthony, fine. But whoever that is, you're the closer, and then you build backwards to, whenever the starting pitcher comes out. Just my opinion.
Yep. Yeah.
I go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think you need to have definite roles. What you, like you said, Alvarado's your closer, Hoffman's your 8th inning guy, Sir Anthony, Orion, you're the 7th inning guys, depending on situations. Not like Hoffman coming in the 5th inning like he was in a playoff game and being burned out. And then when you got to the late inning, you didn't have him. He was gone already. He was washed. Like, yeah. I think that bridge to Lidge, we saw how successful that was with Romero and Madsen and then Lidge. Like, those guys knew, I'm getting loose in the 5th inning because I know I'm coming in the 7th. I'm getting loose in the 6th inning because I know I'm coming in the 8th. And it was every night, and it was boom, boom, boom. And, Lidge went out and had a perfect season, because he knew when he was going to pitch. They all knew when they were going to pitch. And I think this bullpen by committee and we're going to high leverage situation bullshit. I don't want to hear it. I want to find roles 7th, 8th, 9th inning. And those guys, that's the only time they're going to pitch.
Yeah, it needs to get back to that. And it always was. It was like that across the league for years and all. Some of these teams do committee. Oh, well, we're going to see how this guy does. Oh, well, he doesn't pitch great when it's sunny out and all this shit. And I'm Pat Neshek. I don't pitch back to back. And the moisture down here in Miami's too. Like, fuck all that. Like Duke said, 7th, 8th, 9th, like, boom. Unless the dude's gassed and you throw someone in, all right, well, you're going to be the 7th inning guy tonight because dude just like he's gassed. He pitched like the last 2-3 nights. But, I agree. There's a name, not as closer, because I would never put this guy as closer, but there's a name that kind of faded out, and I'm kind of curious as to why. Nick Nelson, man, that was my dude. The World Series year, he went on a little tear there. When was the World Series year? Wheeler was out for a little while, right, during the season? And Nick Nelson was filling in.
Yeah.
Like he was coming in and pitching some innings and stuff. Like bridging the gap, like middle relief. He had a great, and then he dipped off, and then he was left off the roster. And then last year he was in AAA, but he pitched great in AAA last year, and they never called him up, and I never understood why. I'd rather see Nick Nelson up here than a Soto. I'm going to say it. I'm not a Soto fan. I'd rather see Nelson up here over Soto, over Marte, over Bellotti. Like, it's another name you could. He's another long relief guy you could throw in there with Strom, not to gas Strom out. You could throw Nick Nelson in there for 2-3 innings. I agree. You got to define the role. This is our guys, and that's who we're rolling with.
We have a situation I was reading about with the bullpen in particular, but also a little bit with some of our bench guys where they're out of options, and so sending Soto down is not an option because you'll have to clear waivers, and he probably won't. And so there was a lot of guys like that. There was a long list of guys, and so Sosa was another one. Edmundo Sosa. So I think that's Nick Nelson is the one that suffers for that because he still has options to go back and forth. And so if something emergency happens, they can go and get him from AAA.
Right.
But it didn't last year, so they didn't go and get him because of how the situation they have with folks that are out of options. So just keep that in the back of your mind too.
Yeah, it makes sense. I kept tabs on him all last year. I'm like, why is he up here? It doesn't make sense. But I mean, yeah, I could see where you're coming from with that. It definitely makes sense with the guys with no options or little to none.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate that discussion, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know how I ran into this, but I guess just somewhere online I ran into this game that special game we're going to have between the Giants and the Cardinals. And I just this coming June, and I just wanted to give a quick recap of where they're playing and preview it basically and do a little bit of history. It's super fascinating. So just the guys on our call here and anybody on that's listening, if you want to throw it in the chat, what's the oldest ballpark in the United States? I'm going to go Dugan first.
Either Fenway or Wrigley, I would say.
John?
Yeah, I would say Fenway.
Chris?
Well, this ain't fair because I know it, so I don't want to burst your bubble.
No, say it because
well, I mean, maybe I don't know it. I would think it's Rickwood.
It's Rickwood Field. So when they tore down Old Comiskey, I think in 91, I think they said it became the oldest park in the United States. So I just want to throw a little history at you guys. This place is opening day was August 18th of 1910. It's in Burlington, Alabama, which back in that time frame when they were building this park and then opening it, it was nicknamed the Magic City because it was just a boom of growth back then around Burlington, Alabama. Their team was called the Coal Barons. A lot of coal mining in that area. And there was a young guy in his 20s. His name was Rick Woodward. While he's in his 20s, he purchases the Coal Barons. He thinks that there's going to be a big boom in baseball. He's banking on it basically. And Mr. Woodward, he dives into building this field, and he drew inspiration from Forbes Field in Pittsburgh, where he fell in love with the steel and concrete built stadium. And a little local connection. One of his mentors was Connie Mack, and Connie Mack, he bounced ideas off of for designs for Rickwood Field. Back then, this facility was state of the art. It drew record crowds. The Barons were really competitive back then. They had a lot of up and coming minor league players, and because of this stadium that Mr. Woodward built, if you think about the first class of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, Cobb, Matheson, Johnson, Wagner, and Ruth, they all came to visit this stadium and play exhibition games there because this stadium was it back then. So as the United States kind of adopted baseball as its national pastime, the crowds continued to fill Rickwood Field. But as you guys know, in the South, in Birmingham in particular, there was a lot of Jim Crow segregation laws, and that kept a lot of the talented black players from joining leagues. And that's what inspired the Negro Leagues to be formed. So as the Negro Leagues are being formed, especially in Birmingham, they built a team called the Black Barons. So the Coal Barons became the Barons, and the Negro League team was the Black Barons. And what Mr. Woodward would do is when the Barons were away, he would schedule the Black Barons and vice versa. And so most days the park was filled with baseball fans. If both teams were away, then he would book concerts, or in the off season, he would host football games for Alabama and Auburn. In 1936, Mr. Woodward installed lights, and Rickwood became one of the first ballparks in the entire United States to have night games. So pretty cool there. People could come out after work, watch their heroes. In the 40s, the Black Barons won 3 championships with all kinds of Negro League stars, but none brighter than a 17-year-old Willie Mays. Mays helped the Black Barons also to win their only World Series in 1948. Conversely, at the same time, the Barons also won the Southern Association Championship in a banner year for Birmingham baseball in 1948. So then throughout the 50s, the barriers began to fall around the country between black and white players, and Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. Birmingham, unfortunately, continued to be a hotbed for prejudice and violence, so much so that in 1962, the Barons did not field an integrated team because the Southern League became integrated. Mr. Woodward was then really instrumental in rallying the town around baseball, and he took down the segregation signs in the bleachers. And in 1964, an integrated team played at Rickwood Field. Over the next 3 decades, countless of stars graced Rickwood Field until it was leased to the city's Board of Education in 1987 for high school baseball and football. Check this stat out. Of the 351 members of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, 181 of them have either played, managed, umpired, or led a team at Rickwood Field. I mean, how cool is that?
Wow.
So I kind of previewed it in the beginning, but why do I tell you all this? I think it's a really huge tribute this summer that Major League Baseball is doing to the Negro Leagues. June 20th, the Giants and the Cardinals will play at this historic field, and I'm going to have to probably lean on John to find out what channel to watch it on, but I definitely want to be there to see where all those Hall of Famers have been and all that history's occurred. So stay tuned for this podcast when that game is played, and we'll definitely review it then. So just a little history around Rickwood Field and what's coming up this June.
Mike, I thought that was awesome. One of the things I was wondering is, like, wouldn't it have been a little bit cooler if they did it on Jackie Robinson Day and they had the Dodgers play the Guardians, like Larry Doby and Jackie Robinson? I don't know. Like, to me, the Cardinals and Giants don't scream like, Cardinals and Cubs. Absolutely. I think they missed the boat a little bit on who they had there, but that's the only negative I have to say. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
You made me more excited for it.
Yeah, I could not find a single reasoning point on the teams, and to your point, I agree with you that they could have done a little bit better job with who was actually going there.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
All right. Well, we are an hour and 20 in, guys. I'm going to do some comments, and then we'll go around the horn and say goodnight to everybody. So, looks like, yeah, Frank DeLuca, they have high hopes for Sanchez. This is back when we were talking about the rotation. And Scott says Bauer doesn't have the right attitude to play in Philly.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think he's a hard ass.
Yeah.
I think he's a hard ass. I think
I think he'd fit right in.
I think he's just right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this Frank's other comment here, give him a 2-year incentive laden contract. I think that fits in with, what John and Dugan were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And also an ethic and moral laden contract just in case he wants to act up, right? You know what I mean? You have to do that.
You can do that for sure.
Definitely some small print in there.
Yeah.
Bud wants us to post the link. I'm not sure which link, but we'll post the Phillies.
It's probably the
tickets.
Probably, yeah.
As soon as we get that, that'll be all over our social media, and we'll put it on this podcast as soon as we get the link.
And it sounds like, Chris, based on the response that we got, right, there should be plenty of tickets available in those sections. So basically it's 301 to section 310. You pick what section you want to sit in. You're picking the seats. You're paying directly to the Phillies. We're not getting anything out of it other than we're all going to hang out, right? And go to a game. But it's going to be real simple, just like you're buying tickets from them normally. But it sounded like, Chris, there was 30 here, 120 here, 500 in this section. So we're totally fine. Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
I just don't want people worrying they're going to sell out. I don't think they're going to be in that area, and we'll all be in those sections.
We'll all be around.
Together.
Yeah.
We
want you to buy them sooner than later, though.
Yeah. Right. If you want to go. And whoever is on our social media the other day saying they're flying in, book your tickets now. It's May 18th.
Happening.
I like this comment from Alex. Kratz should replace Stocker. I don't disagree after that interview, but what I totally agree with is we need someone to replace Stocker.
Yeah.
Wasn't Kratz one of the 4 guys a couple years ago that
he was?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
It was Kratz, Durbin, and Mushmouth, Michael Bourne, and Stocker.
Yeah. I like both Durbin and Kratz. I thought they both were good.
Yeah. I don't know how Stocker got the fucking job. I have no fucking idea. He's horrendous. Honestly horrendous on there.
Speaking of Durbin, Durbin follows me on Twitter. I shot him a message. He hasn't got back to me yet. I'm hoping to try to get him on here.
I think
probably because you're a deadbeat dad. I don't know.
Maybe Stocker wanted to lose money. I don't know.
Oh, maybe that is it.
Yeah.
We were talking, or Dugan was talking about complete games. A friend of Chris and mine that we play with at Textile, Bob, said he thinks 95% of my games were complete games. But that's just because I'm stubborn and I wouldn't come out. I told my coach no. What songs are we singing DPF night?
I don't know.
Well, we got high hopes for sure. That's at the end, right?
Yeah. Maybe we'll make something up. I don't know. Maybe we'll do Atzinola together.
Okay. That would be good.
There you go.
I hope we can retire that song this year and he doesn't give up so many fucking bombs.
That would be good too.
John's bringing his big tailgate speaker. I brought it over to Chris's car the one time before the game.
Yeah.
Nancy, like your list, Dugan. Nice job.
She's my favorite DPFer, Nancy. My favorite.
Go. I don't get the Walker hate. 4th starter numbers. I mean, we didn't hate Walker, but he didn't pitch in the playoffs, so clearly the organization has some sort of issue with him.
Yeah.
4th starter numbers, but not 4th starter money.
That's what I was going to say. Right. The money's for the 4th starter.
That's one of those.
And I think that's the handcuff is the money.
That's like number 2 money, maybe even number 1 on some teams.
So Dugan, your segment's getting a lot of love. So Bud watched Short Pitch, and Nancy says Robin Roberts was also a great guy. Lived in Abington Township where I grew up. His wife was a substitute teacher. That should tell you something about contracts back then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think Steve just stumbled out of a brewery because he hasn't. He usually is more active on the comments. We have to really rely on the miners with the bullpen so that we can save some money. Okay. It's not my money though.
Yeah.
Hey,
they got plenty of it.
John, any info about Aiden Miller?
I'm hearing he's like one of his name's coming up a lot. I just read something. I was busy at work today, but I read a little. I got to dive into it later. Little clip that he's going to be rising very quickly. I don't know. I mean, you still got to see,
Yep.
After camp and as he gets into the season. But I heard from what people around the league are talking in the organization, people see him as he's going to rise very quickly. Don't know where they're going to put him, but I mean, who knows?
There you go. We'll get some more info and bring it back in another podcast.
Yeah, I'll
Steve
definitely start digging.
Steve said the Black Barons have more rings in the 40s than we do overall. Papa John, give me a little love. Thank you, Papa John. Why can't I get his thing to work? There we go.
No P words.
He did that earlier. I skipped it. And Nancy, so as we hit the almost 90-minute mark, I'll just say, hey, Happy New Year to everybody, and I'll kick it over to you guys. Dugan, anything to wrap it up?
Yeah, no, I can't wait for baseball. That's all I can say. I'm getting a little stir crazy being in the house. The Eagles aren't playing great, so that makes it even worse. But for all the Eagles fans out there, go Birds. Hopefully they give us at least one more week of football by winning Monday night. Thanks for watching. John?
Yeah, I can't wait for MLB, but I'm thankful that I've gotten to watch the Arizona Fall League and the Australian League all this time, and the Australian League playoffs start in a couple weeks, so that'll just go right into spring training. But yeah, I can't wait for baseball to start. And real quick, happy birthday to Charlie Manuel, man. I saw it was his birthday the other day. I'm so glad to see him up and about and starting to, I hope to see him at spring training and, before the season, come out for the season and all. I know the dude loves being at the ballpark. If you're watching, Uncle Chow, I don't know if you watch us, but if you watch us, we love you, man. I could speak on behalf of all DPFers, man.
100%.
So glad you're looking good and being healthy, and 80 more, brother.
Chris, you want to bring us home?
Sure. So we've been working as a team incredibly hard to get the merch store up and running. I went on and when we put stuff up, we order it ourselves. We make sure the process is seamless. We're making sure it looks good. Like we got in the mugs today, the tumblers, 20 ounce. They are live right now. drunkphilsfans.com. If you're on the Facebook page, it's right on the shop button. So you go to our profile and just hit that. So show us some love. I'm going to tell you I'm not easily impressed, but I love this mug, this tumbler. It is awesome. Like the colors are just so vibrant, beautiful. That being said, thanks everyone for watching and listening. I want to give a special fuck you this week to someone who's the biggest piece of shit in Philly sports history, and that's Cutter Gauthier. You know what? You're an absolute piece of shit for saying you wanted to be here. Let our guys go and draft you and then want out of here and say, you know, it's not for here. You're an absolute piece of shit. Fuck you, Cutter Gauthier. Fuck you, Joe Carter. Fuck you, Nell Carter. Fuck you, Billy Wagner. You know, and most of all, and finally, fuck the Mets. I cannot wait to just be with all of you in the garage or at the game and yell "fuck the Mets." So, have a good night. Thanks for tuning in and listening, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Good night.